I am a senior program manager with the Google Earth Outreach team. Today, we're going to learn how to use My Maps to easily create and share a custom map on the web that will be a rich, compelling experience for your users. Through my experiences working with nonprofits and public benefit organizations, I've seen this tool be leveraged for all sorts of different uses, from crisis response to data journalism to indigenous land rights, activism, environmental monitoring, and more. So one of the things I've noticed is that it's a really versatile tool, and it really lowers the barrier to entry for making maps on the web. You don't need to know any code in order to get a map up and running on the web very quickly. So today, I'm going to show you how to create an interactive map of your own. I am going to be using this example, which is a map of shark sightings off of the coastline of False Bay, South Africa. The data has been provided courtesy of our friends at the MAPA Project and Shark Spotters. And if you at home would like to follow along using My Maps, you can click on the Go to My Maps link just below this video on the right in order to launch My Maps and sign into your Google account. But if you miss anything, just don't worry. The video will be available to watch again on demand. And also there's a link below the video to a tutorial on our website that takes you step by step through creating this map. Finally, if any questions come up during this training, don't hesitate to ask them in the Q&A below, and we'll be there answering those questions as the training goes on. So let's get started. Google My Maps is a free, easy-to-use tool that allows you to create web maps. With Google My Maps, you can draw points and shapes anywhere on the web. You can add photos, videos, and text to those places. And also you can import locations from other data sets like spreadsheets or KML files. All of these elements combine together to enable you to create beautiful and useful maps that you can share on the web, take on the go on your mobile device, or even embed in your website. With My Maps, you can control who gets to view or edit your maps, and you can collaborate like in Google Docs. That means that you can make it so that your map is private only to you, shared with just a few others in your organization, or that it's public on the web and anyone can find it. Today, I'm going to take you step by step through how we create a new map. We're going to learn how to draw on the map, add photos, videos, and text to your places, import and style data, and finally, how to share your maps. Again, if you'd like to follow along, make sure you have another tab on your web browser open. Go to mymaps.google.com and sign in with your Google account in order to follow along with the training. So now I'm going to do what I just told you to do. I'm going to open a web browser and I'm going to type in mymaps.google.com. I'm already signed in my web browser to my Google account. And so what you'll see in front of you is a dashboard of any maps that you've created or that have been shared with you. Today, we're going to create a new map. So the way that I would do that is I would click on this red button in the upper left-hand corner that says create a new map. Once you click on that, it's going to load a blank My Map. You can see the interactive map is here. There's a panel at the upper left-hand corner, which is kind of a table of contents for your map. You'll see a search bar and all these little buttons that we're going to learn how to use during this training. The first thing I'm going to do is title my map and give it a description. So in that panel in the upper left-hand corner, I'm going to click on the words Untitled Map. That gives me a little pop-up where I can type in a title and a bit of a description. And click Save. And you can go back and change that and add a little polish later on. Now I'm ready to start adding places to my map. So I'm going to start by adding a place with the search bar. I'm going to search for False Bay, South Africa. So click in the search bar here, type in False Bay, South Africa. And so this is the same Google Maps search that you would get if you were in Google Maps. So I will look at my suggested search results and click on the one that I think makes the most sense. Yep, that's it. It's False Bay in South Africa. And so once I've confirmed this is the place I want to add to my map, I can just click Add to Map here in the little pop-up. Now False Bay is a place on my map. It's the very first place. One little note here, if you're adding places by search, it brings over a few details from Google Maps that show up in the balloon for the place. If you want to get rid of that, you just click Remove, and that will take it away. Okay, so that was adding a place by search. There's another way to add a place mark, and that's by just dropping a pin on the map. So let's say that I actually was walking on a beach over near the Cape of Good Hope, this beach right here, and I saw a shark off the coastline, and I want to just place a marker on the map. I can't search for that in the search bar. So instead, I'm going to use the map to orient myself and place that marker on the map. It's a little bit hard with this 2D Google base map. So one thing I wanted to point out is you can switch the base map. Over here in the panel at left, there's a little section that says base map. If you click on this downwards arrow here, you'll get 9 different base map options. So I can change the base map, and part of this might be aesthetics. But right now I'm going to switch it to satellite so I can more easily find that place that I saw the shark. Okay, so let's say I know I saw it right off of this place right here. To drop a pin on the map, I go to this button, Add Marker, under the search bar. I click on Add Marker, and then I find the place on the map where I want to add the pin and click on it. That adds a place mark. I'll add a title here and click Save. Okay, so now I have 2 places in my map, the False Bay, the place I added by searching for it, and then I have this shark sighting right here. Next, I'm going to add a line. Let's say I wanted to represent a trail that I took down to the beach. So to add a line, I go up to these buttons, but instead of Add Marker, I'm going to click the button for Draw a Line, Add Line or Shape. And then you can just click on the map in order to draw your line. So let's say this is the trail I use here. Just going to add these places. I'm not going to take my time to be too exact about it right now. But when I'm finished with my trail here, to end the line, I either click again on the last point that I just added, or you can click the return key, and that ends the line. You can also draw a shape. So let's say I wanted to really highlight this particular section of the beach. Again, I click on Draw a Line, the Add Line or Shape option. And again, I'm just clicking on the map to add these nodes to my shape and draw that shape here. To close the shape, you can just click on the first point that you added and click Save. Okay, so now we've added 3 different types of features to our map. We've got place marks, we've got lines, and we've got shapes. I should point out that you can edit or delete any of these places that you've added to the map. So just showing you how to do that. If I click on the shark sighting place mark that I added, you'll see these buttons here in the pop-up window. The pencil represents the edit button. So if I click on edit, I could move that place around and correct the location or change the title. I also want to point out, again, if I click on this place, there is a delete button. So if I wanted to delete this place from my map, I could do that as well. So we've added all these places to our map. Next, let's add some information to these places. So first, I want to show you how to add a description to your places. You click on the place and you click that edit button that I just showed you. And you can type a bit of description into this description field. So that's great, but what if you want to add more fields than just name and description to your places? It's totally possible to do that in my map. So let's say I'm running a more scientific project and I really need to know who saw the shark because I've opened up this map to many collaborators. To add a field for who spotted the shark, I can open up the underlying data table for this map. So to do that, come over here to the panel, and you see this layer that all these places are in. There's these 3 vertical dots, which is the layer menu for this layer. If I click on that, I have this option to open the data table. And that opens a data table that is the underlying data table for my map. So each of the places on my map is a row in this table. And then there's a column for name and a column for description. If you click on the downward arrow next to any column header, you have the ability to insert new columns into this data table. So I'm going to insert a column for who spotted the shark, and I'll click add. And so now I've got that 3rd column, and if I click on any place within that layer, you'll see now I have name, description, and who as a field. I click edit, and then I can type in the name of the person who spotted the shark. So you can add multiple fields if you want to kind of collect structured, robust data along with your mind map. Another thing I should show you is how to style the features in your map. So that means change their appearance on the map, starting with place marks. If I click on the place mark, and then click on the style button, which is represented by this little pink can tipping over here. If I click on that, I can change the color of my place mark. So you'll see it just dynamically updates there on the map. And then I can also change the symbol that's in the place mark. There's a few options available to me here that are the popular icons, but there's also this button for more icons. And if I click on that, I get access to a library of almost 400 different icons for my maps that Google provides. So I'm going to filter this. You can search as well by keywords. So I'm going to find one of these symbols that has to do with a beach and select it. So now I've got a little umbrella here. You can also upload your own images if you want to use your own images as icons by clicking on more icons and selecting the custom icon button. So that's a cool tool as well. Okay, so we've changed the symbol and color of these place marks. Next, I want to show you how to style lines. So zooming in here, we have this line. It's kind of a thin black line here. So I'm going to pop the balloon for that trail and click the style button, again, the paint can. You can change the color of the line. And you can change its width. So I can take this slider and make it thicker so it's easier to see. Then coming over to the shape that we drew over the beach, again, that style button, and you can change the fill of the polygon, as well as how opaque or transparent it is and the width. So I can play with that. So that's how you style your place marks, lines, and shapes. The other thing I wanted to show that you can add is photos and videos. So if I click on this shark sighting place that I added, you can see there is an add image or video button that's represented by the camera. If I click on that, then I'm able to choose from a number of different ways to add photos and videos. I can upload a photo on my computer. I can search for images on the web or add them by URL. I can select from my Google Photos album or Google Drive. And then if it's a video we're talking about, I can search on YouTube or add by a YouTube URL. So lots of options here. I already have a beautiful image of a shark that I have on my computer, so I'm going to select that and add it to my place. So you'll see it shows up here in the pop-up box. You know how it says 1 of 1? That means you can add multiple images or videos into your places, so you can have a carousel of different media associated with a place. So I'll click Save, and just to show you that video option, I'm going to head over to the False Bay place mark, click on that. Again, you add an image or video by clicking the camera. And then I'm just going to search on YouTube this time for great white shark. And you'll see I get a bunch of options. I can select the right one, and that video will show up associated with this place. So that is how you add photos and videos, descriptions, and style all of your places in your map. One important note about videos is that they must be published to YouTube and set to public in order to be able to add them into your map. So that's just important to remember. So far I've shown you how to add places to the map by hand, but what if you want to map a lot of places, like hundreds of places, and you already have that data in a spreadsheet somewhere? As long as that spreadsheet of places has location information in it, like addresses or cities or latitude and longitude, you can import it into My Maps and automatically map all of those places on the map. Each row of your spreadsheet will appear on the map according to the information in the location columns. So like if you have a column of latitude and longitude, or you have a column of addresses, each row will be plotted by what's in that column onto the map. And then all of the other information in the row will be displayed in the balloons. Then you can start styling the map based on attributes in the table and really start to have fun. So let's give that a try. The way I'm going to do that is first I am going to add a new layer to this map. And before I do that, actually, I'm just going to change the base map back to the planar Google map so it's easier to see what I'm adding. Okay, so I have my untitled layer. I'm going to go up here to the panel and click on the Add Layer button. Then that's going to add a second layer to my map right here. And you'll see there's a little button to import. I'm going to click on that. I have a bunch of different file types I can import. I'll get into that later. Right now, I'm just going to select a spreadsheet that's already on my laptop. It's a spreadsheet of beaches where shark spotters have been stationed. Once I select that spreadsheet, the first thing I'll be asked in this pop-up is which columns contain the location information. So your spreadsheet might have a column for street address and a column for city or zip or postal code. So you'd select those columns. This spreadsheet I'm working with has latitude and longitude, so those two columns are selected. I'll click continue. And then I'm asked to choose which column I should use as the title of my places. And this is really up to you. I'm going to select beach name and click finish. Then you can see that the map is going to reload and these new place marks have been added here. Each of these represents a different shark spotter beach. If I click on one of them, I can see all the other data that was in the spreadsheet for that beach. So latitude and longitude, what type of beach it was, and a bit of a description. Okay, so next, I usually rename the layer something a bit more descriptive. You can see the layer name is just sharkspotterbeaches.csv. It's the file name. But if you click on that layer name, you can make it look a little bit more polished here. I might do the same for my untitled layer here, just again, adding a little bit of polish. Okay, now the next thing that I want to show you how to do is you can actually style all of these locations using some more advanced styling options. So before I was showing you, click on a place mark and then you click the style button and then you can basically style each place individually. This time I want to show you the styling options you get when you click on styling at the layer level. So over here under the layer name, you see where it says individual styles. Click on that style option. And you'll see you have a drop down here that lets you group places in different ways. So first, let's try uniform style. That means that now all of these places are grouped together in one bucket. You can see they're all highlighted at once when I mouse over them in the panel. And I can style them all at once. So instead of hand editing 10 different places, I can click the style button here. I can turn them all yellow at the same time. And I can give them all the beach umbrella symbol at the same time. So this is really useful to save time. Clicking on the style button again, another thing you can do is style by a sequence of numbers. So the order they appear in the spreadsheet, you can give them a number according to that order. This might be useful if you were making a mind map, let's say, of a guided tour around the cultural sites of a town, for example, and you want people to walk through them in a specific sequence. The the option that I wanted to show you that I really love is style by data column. So this really gets into styling by the underlying data that was in that spreadsheet. So the spreadsheet of shark spotter beaches had a column called type. So I'm going to select that. You can see there were two possible answers in that column. One was beaches that were permanent beaches, so they always have a shark spotter. And the other bucket was temporary beaches that only have a shark spotter some of the time. So now that I can bucket the data based on the value in a column, I can actually style by that value too. So permanent beaches, I might want those all to have the beach umbrella and be green because green to me somehow signals permanence. And then I can style the temporary beaches to have an umbrella, but maybe I want them to be gray. And that to me makes it feel more temporary. A little bit of this is arbitrary. So now I've been able to style based on the values in the spreadsheet. Then the last thing I want to show you is if you click on the styling options again, you can also style by a column. And if it has numbers in it, if it's a numeric column, then you can actually use this ranges option that's not available to me right now. But just a few more notes on this, like let's say you have a spreadsheet that has I don't know, all the cities of the world in it and their populations. You could choose to style by the population column in the spreadsheet and then use these ranges to say like cities with higher population should be colored dark red and cities with lower population should be lighter red. So you can start to style based on numbers or statistics in your data. Quite useful. The last thing I want to point out is you can set labels. So right now, no labels are set, but let's say I wanted the beach names to actually show up on the map to help my user kind of orient themselves. You can turn that on as well. So now we've styled all of the shark spotter beaches. I wanted to say that, you're not just limited to adding one layer to your map or 2 layers. You can add multiple layers, up to 10 layers of different data sets on your My Map. So I have another spreadsheet that's all the shark sightings that have been seen by shark spotters during a specific time period off of False Bay. So I'm going to add a 3rd layer. Again, the way you do that is by clicking on Add Layer in the panel. And then I'm going to import my shark sightings spreadsheet. And again, this spreadsheet is one that contains latitude and longitude, so those 2 columns are checked. I'm going to title my markers by, I'll choose date. Again, this is a little bit arbitrary which column you choose for that. Click Finish, and that's going to load on the map. Okay, so now I have my new layer here that's all of the shark sightings. Again, just clicking on one of these. This is the data that came in the spreadsheet with each sighting. And I'm going to use uniform style here, hover over all these items and style them using a little shark icon that I know is in the library. Maybe blue. Okay. All right. So now I've got all my sightings on the map. That's cool. And I will give it a better layer title. All right. So before I stop adding data sets, I wanted to add one more kind of data set. This one is a little bit different though. So we've been adding spreadsheets so far, but this one is not a spreadsheet. It's a KML or KMZ file. So if you're not familiar with that terminology, just a little bit of background. KML is the file format used to display geographic data in Google Earth and other Earth browsers. So I found a map of a marine protected area in False Bay. It's called Helderberg. So it's a map of the boundary of this MPA. It's already saved in the KML file format. And I can import this marine protected area boundary into my map. The way I would do that is back in My Maps, I would click Add Layer. I'm going to call this MPA. Then I'm going to click Import. I'm going to select the KMZ of the boundary from my computer, and I'm going to load that on the map. So it's a small MPA. If I zoom in over here, you can see it. So this is the MPA right over here. And I'm going to make the styling on that pop a little bit more. Maybe I'll make it red and make sure it shows up on the map a little bit more so it's visible. So that's how you would add a KML or KMZ file to the map. Being able to import KML can be really useful. So if you want to add map layers to your My Maps, a lot of maps already exist out there in KML format and are available for you to download and use as a layer in your My Map. Just to give an example, you might want to use this KML import option to bring in a map of census tracts or country or municipal boundaries, protected areas, or really in any kind of authoritative borders. You don't want to have to draw a county border or a protected area border by hand. That would be incredibly difficult. And these maps already exist out there on the web. So I highly recommend using KML import to bring in those kind of authoritative boundaries into your maps as layers. If you're totally new to maps and searching for the maps on the web, some good places to start might be government open data portals. They often have a section for GIS data, which if you're not familiar with GIS, that means geospatial information systems, map data. And you can look there for different kinds of maps that you might want to download and bring into your My Maps. If you're interested specifically into protected areas, protectedplanet.net has a very comprehensive data set of a database of protected area boundaries. So that might be another place to look too. Okay, so switching back to our map, now I want to show you our finished map. So this whole time we've been in edit mode. We're looking at the map from the point of view of an editor and what the editor sees. But let's look at what your audience, your viewership sees when they look at the finished map. In order to preview that, you go to the panel and you click on the preview button. That opens another browser tab and it lets you see the map as it looks to people who only have view permissions. They don't have edit permissions. So, they can zoom in and out. They can click on a feature on the map. This is the place mark I added a video to. So any video or image will be shown in the panel at left as a preview. And if the user clicks on it, they'll get a full screen and they can watch that video. And they can click on any of these points to examine the information that's associated with those places. Okay, so next I want to get on to how you start sharing your map, but there's a couple more points I should cover on data import first. So the first point is what kinds of files can you import to your My Maps? Today I covered spreadsheets, but should call out that you can import for spreadsheets the file formats of CSV, TSV, Google Sheets, and Excel. I talked a little bit about KML and KMZ, so we can import those file formats. And then there are two types I didn't get to cover just because of time today. One is GPX. So if you have a GPS device or you have a mobile app on your phone that collects GPS tracks or waypoints, if you can export it in a GPX format, you can import that onto your map and layer that. And then there's Google Photo Albums. So if you have a Google Photo Album and it has photos in it that have been geotagged, which means, for example, when you took the picture on your mobile phone, you had the location information on, then you can actually take that Google Photo Album and import it into your My Map and have all those photos be mapped onto the map in the location that they were taken, which can be pretty cool. There are some limitations on the size of the data set that you can import, which I've listed out here on this slide. So these are the caveats, and these slides are available for you to take a look at to make sure you're fitting within the limitations of My Maps. Then finally, if you do choose to import KML, most basic KMLs will import easily into My Maps. But there are some things that are supported in KML, like 3D models or historical map overlays that aren't supported in my maps. So there may be a few gotchas there that are outlined on this slide. You can take a look. Okay, so now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about sharing our map. To share a link to your map, you click the share button in the panel, and then you'll be able to add people or groups to be able to view or edit your map. So that's like maybe if you wanted to share with a couple other people in your organization. Below that, you can see a list of who has access to your maps and whether they have view or edit permissions. And then down here, you can see the status of your map. So right now this is restricted and only people I've added above can open this map. But I can change that so that anyone with the link can open the map. So I'm going to do that now. And that means anyone on the internet is able to, if they have this link, they can open the map and view it. And so this would be the setting you would want to use if you want to, tweet this out or share it on a link from your website and you want anyone to be able to access it and view it. I also want to point out that you can embed this map on your website. So if I head on up here to the top of the panel and click on the overflow menu here, you'll see that I have the option to embed this on my site. If I click on that, I get a little bit of HTML code that I can copy and I can paste it in the source code for my website. The nice thing about that is it gives you an interactive map embedded straight on a web page, and you didn't need to write any code yourself in order to do that. So that's quite useful if you want to have the map on your web page. Finally, you can view your map on your mobile device in the Google Maps mobile app. So if you open up Google Maps on your mobile device and you look at the bottom of the screen and click on Saved, you can then scroll down and click on Maps. You'll see a long list of my maps that you own or that have been shared with you. You can click on the map that you want to see layered on top of Google Maps, the mobile app, and then you can take that with you on the go. You can close your map later if you don't want to see it anymore on Google Maps by clicking on the title and description and then just clicking close. So I think that about wraps up sharing, and we're just about done with the training, but there's one last thing I wanted to show you. So if you've been working on a mind map this whole time during the training, and let's say you close it down and a couple weeks later you want to come back to it and work on it again, how do you find it again? So I'm going to close out my mind maps here. Okay, so you just use that URL that we used to open up the My Maps dashboard at the beginning of the training. That's mymaps.google.com. If you load that up, you'll see a dashboard, again, of all your maps that you've created or that others have shared with you. And then I can just click on the most recent map. That's the one that I was working on today. And I can start editing it again. So really easy to get back to my maps once you've created them. With that, our training has come to an end. So I wanted to thank you for spending time with us today. I hope you now feel ready to start creating your own mind maps. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope we see you back here again. Bye-bye.